Hey there, everybody. I am excited to have Brianna Shrader on the podcast today. I first heard about Brianna from a podcast with Andrew Helmich on his amazing podcast, PhotoBizX. And she talked a little bit about using AI in her business. And so I was intrigued. And then she taught an AI class partnering with Andrew on the PhotoBizX platform. And I highly recommend this class, by the way, shameless plug for you there, Brianna. But I had my studio manager took the course and she absolutely loved it. She gave me a lot of great ideas and gave her a lot of great ideas of what she does because she manages a lot of our social media and our emails and different kinds of things that we do. So not only is Brianna got an amazing photography business, she is rocking the AI world within her business. And Brianna, thank you so much for being on with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, John. I'm super excited to be here and chat about photography and AI.
Awesome. So you run a photography business, which I know was the catalyst of what you were doing with AI. What type of photography business do you have, and how long you've been in business?
We are on year 9 at Shyheart Studios, and we focus on weddings. That's how we started, was primarily weddings, and then through COVID, pretty much almost closing our doors, I learned how to pivot and expanded into full service family portrait photography. And then in 23, I launched professional brand photography as well. So I do a little bit of it all. I don't believe in niching down anymore.
I
And
mean,
now I'm
that's a whole
teaching.
topic of conversation of its
It
own. I
is.
mean, I know there's a lot of, and let's just sidebar here for a second, because
Yeah.
I'm like you. I kind of do a little bit of, I mean, I do family, I do dogs, we do newborns, but we have our own style with all that kind of stuff. I do
Hmm.
headshots, I do personal branding. Some of it I advertise more than the other. What's your thought on that? I'm kind of curious, and what the listeners have their opinions. Obviously, I'm
Of
curious to
course.
your opinion on that kind of thing.
I think if you have the tools and the team in place to do it all, why wouldn't you? If it doesn't light you up, don't do it. But if it lights you up, why would you not? I think for me, with the seasons of my life, what really lights me up has changed. And when I was young and single, I was obsessed with weddings and I knew I wanted to get into weddings. When I got married, I could relate to my clients so well at their engagement session during the wedding planning process and even shortly after that. And now I'm a mom. I have 2 little girls at home. So, number one, I don't want to be out shooting for 10 hours every Saturday and Sunday away from my babies. I do still love weddings, but I don't want to do them every weekend. Right now, oh my gosh, put me in front of a 2-year-old and I will have the best, I will have the best time. And I'm growing my business. So
Right.
I love working with people in their business and teaching them how to show up more authentically online and how to connect with their ideal client, which totally ties into AI. But also into the brand world and teaching them the importance of showing up authentically on social media so that you can better connect with your ideal client. So those are the 2 places right now that really really light me up, and so I'm doing all of it and I'm just not saying no because I have the team in place to handle the wedding so I don't have to turn that work away, and to handle all the editing and all of those things. So I'm doing it all. Yeah,
That's
so I
awesome.
believe I believe if it lights you up, go for it.
That's
But
awesome.
you do have to have the staff. If you don't have the staff and you can't do it well, then you're falling apart at every which end. So, yeah, there's a lot of key factors there, but
No, I agree, and I think there is a place to niche. I don't think it's wrong to niche down into something, but like one of the things that I think that was a catalyst for me when it came to doing that kind of broadening my horizons is like the economic conditions that we are in that are just fluctuating so much, and it's just like, why would I want to just do one thing if I can do other things well? And I do other things well. I'm sure you do other things well. I mean, I wouldn't say make yourself like widely available to different genres if you're like clueless on what you're doing there, and then
right.
just to do it just to say you can do it. But I would actually get good at what you're doing. But you're right, you do need the staff, you do need, like, so you're not spreading yourself too thin, and all that kind of stuff. But like, I always thought about it with weddings. It's like, why would you not do newborns and maternity and family? Because
Oh
you're
yeah,
starting their
completely
family with
evolves.
the wedding. You can see them
Absolutely. It's
from
return
the
business. Yeah.
yes, right?
A
right?
hundred
So
percent.
so anyway, back to the topic at hand, which is AI. So AI is such a buzz, and there's so many feelings about it right now. I mean, you talk to somebody and they'll say AI, oh my gosh, it's ruining photography, it's ruining business, and blah blah blah. And you have other people that are like embracing it and going, no, it's awesome, it's so perfect and everything. What are your feelings about? I mean, I have, my assumptions, but what are your feelings about AI and when it comes into our world of photography and marketing and whatever we're doing within our businesses?
I feel both ends of the spectrum, truly. I think that it can be really scary when it's in the wrong hands. I stay really up to date on AI, as you can imagine. And I feel both fear and excitement. And I think that that's totally normal.
Yeah.
It's what you do with that fear and excitement that makes the difference. So, for one thing, we know that AI is not going away. It's going to get more powerful. It's going to become more and more in our face. So you have two choices. You get on board or you get left behind,
Mm.
right? So in that realm, I'm super excited for what it's done for my business and for the tools that I have within it. On the scarier side of things, I think that still continue to educate yourself and understand what's coming and what's available to the world and to children and all of that it's just important because I think the more you know, the better you could protect yourself and your family.
Mm.
And on that same note, the more you know, the more you can use it to your advantage in your business and in your life as well.
Yeah, the best thing that I think I ever heard somebody say, and this was in the headshot world, is they said, when LinkedIn became a thing, all the recruiters and the people that went out and they were headhunters or whatever, like they were like, oh, we're out of business. This is going to replace us and stuff. But it's just like, I don't know if you're on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. I get
Mhm.
messages all the time from, hey, we've got this job, that thing, they like, it's always, they're still out there. They're not going
Absolutely.
away. They're still recruiters. I photograph recruiters. I photograph people
Mhm.
that are in that world. And so it doesn't go away. So, but the correlation of that is just because something happens doesn't mean it's, digital. Like I'm sure when
Right.
digital cameras started becoming a thing, the film people were like, oh, this is the ruining of all photography and everything. And it changed. It just, if you either had to adapt and become part of the revolution, so to speak, at that time, or like you said, you're going to be left behind, because
Right.
hate to say it, AI ain't getting better. It's just, I mean, going away. It's just going to
Right.
get
It's not going
better,
away.
you know?
Yeah. 100%. A hundred
Um,
percent.
so how and like what are some of the ways that you're using AI within your business to help, with the different day-to-day things? Because I know in your course you talked about different things that you're doing, but like, and a lot of it was time management, which I think is the huge thing that comes with AI. So what are some of the aspects of AI that you guys use in your business?
So everything from basic editing all the way through content creation. Um, we've played with Imagine AI, which I'm sure you know of. Not played with. We used it heavily for the last couple of years. I just shifted away from Imagine AI into Aftershoot, which is a very similar platform for editing. But even still, I would say the one thing I'm not touching yet is any AI culling because it makes me nervous a little bit because I've played with it. I've given it a couple shots, but I'm not ready for it. But the from the most basic initial editing, we're using it all the way through content creation and planning for social media. We're creating digital freebies with it. We're setting up social media calendars with it. We're using it for caption generation. We're using it to help us write emails and create workflows and really hone in our messaging, which is the most important part. Our messaging and what we're putting out on social media, on our website, in advertising has completely shifted because of understanding how to utilize tools like ChatGPT and Bard to talk to the client in the right way or the ideal client in the right way.
Do you like what kind of got you it like I'm gonna backtrack here a little bit. I
Yeah.
meant to ask this question before, but what got you like what was like, hey, I gotta get on board with this stuff? Like what was the catalyst for that for you?
I fell into it really on accident. I have so back to the COVID, kind of being the catalyst for my business pivot and kind of moving along outside of the world of just weddings. I also ended up tuning into the PhotoBiz X podcast and starting to really dive into ways to pivot. I ended up hiring a business coach. It was incredible. Loved working with him. Found him through the PhotoBiz X podcast. And I was with him for almost 2 years. And then I was like, okay, I need the next step. And I've got my pricing down. I've got my experience down. I've got my artwork down. I've got all of those things down. What's next? The next is marketing. And so I wasn't really looking to leave him at the time. I guess, kept my mind and ears and eyes open for tools for marketing. And I stumbled across a 3-day social media selling challenge is kind of, I think, what it was called. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. And it talked about AI briefly. And so it was like a little 3-day challenge for like $100. And I jumped into it. And day one was all chat GPT and my mind was blown. I had not heard of it. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is this? And I must have hunkered down for the next like 6 hours with chat GPT and I just went crazy and I never looked back.
Yeah, Chat GPT, when I first started playing around with it, it was just blowing my mind of like, you could write a blog post, have it refine. I'm like, I'm not the best writer. I'm a good speaker. Not the best writer. So I would write what I want to write. I would say, clean this up, Chat GPT. It would clean
Yeah,
it up and put things into perspective and say it in a better way than I would say it. But it was still my ideas and content, so to speak.
exactly.
But then what was great is I can say, take this blog post and turn it in and make an announcement on social media. And it would make an announcement on social media
Yep.
with emojis and everything. Now make
Hmm.
this into an email announcing this to my email subscribers. And it would write an
Yeah.
email and all that stuff with the title in the email and emojis and
Hmm.
all that stuff. And I will tell you this, I don't know if you've experienced this or you saw a difference, but for the listener that's like not on board with this stuff, you need to be on board because when I started doing that and putting and changing my email content to fit that, you know, and using those tools and those resources, my open rate for emails spiked drastically and it
Hmm.
stayed that way, right? And so like the AI stuff knows the buzzwords and the key things that need to be said that like people are going to go, boom, I'm going to go and open that. Right.
Hmm.
Where I was trying to do it myself and I was like, oh, 15, 20% click rate. I'm like, whoa, that's really awesome. Not,
Right.
you know, I-
Yeah.
so it's amazing and it feels like it's never ending, like you can always
Right.
find like different tools and different ways of doing things and all that stuff. So you talked about you took a course that kind of got you going in all this stuff. For the person that's trying to get into doing any kind of AI anything, let's focus on using something like Chat GPT, right? What would you recommend for somebody that's getting started just to get going on this?
Um, shameless plug, the masterclass with PhotoBiz.
No, 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 no need to be shameless about it. It's a great course.
Truly, I designed that course to start at square one, to start with understanding who you're talking to. We build your ideal client avatar right out of the gate. And it shares all the prompts. So anybody that signs up for it gets all the prompts that we use. And I really wanted it to be an intro level AI tool for photographers who are established enough in their business that they know what they're doing, but really need to hone in that messaging and that marketing side, because that was such a game changer for me. I mean, again, my business has been around for 9 years, but I was spinning my wheels with Instagram and getting so frustrated and my Facebook ads and all the things. I was like, my work is beautiful. Why is this free tool of Instagram not like generating business for me? And it's because I wasn't talking to anybody.
Right.
I was like, "Oh, here's my cute client." And I was like constantly looking at the next person. My husband is a great example. He's a mortgage broker. And I kept telling him, I was like, "You have content that you can be putting out on social media that's shareable, that's savable, it's educational. Like, you really need to be utilizing this tool. And I was like, I really don't. Like, who's going to save someone else's wedding photo? Who's going to save pictures of someone else's kid? And it's not about the images, it's about what you're saying and who you're talking to. And that whole shift in my brain has changed everything. And it's all because of that course and what I ended up turning around and teaching to photographers, because I was like, there's nobody really out there teaching this to photographers. There's people teaching it AI all over the place, but photographers specifically, I felt like if I need help, and I've been at this for 9 years, there's so many people out there that need these
Right.
tools. So, so truly, that course, it's not even just a basic course. It's like, it starts basic, but we go all the way into lead magnet generation. And that to me is pretty next level, when you can take a 1 hour roughly course and go from the very beginning of who are you talking to all the way through how do we create content that is going to resonate with this person. It's a really great tool.
Well, and the other thing too is that I think most people that have never dove into this kind of stuff that don't quite understand is the how cheap it is to use any kind of AI tool. You know, like
Oh yeah,
ChatGPT, I think it's like $20 a month. I don't even know. Like,
it is. Yeah,
like
it's
it's
20
one of
bucks a
those
month.
things that's just like
Hmm.
I pay for it because I know we need it and we use it all the
Right.
time. But I know it's not that expensive. It's not like I'm paying gobs and gobs of money. Now, that's not to say that as time goes on, it might get more expensive because, supply and demand when people are using
Right.
it all the time, it's just like, oh, I guess we can raise our prices. But
Hmm.
other things are coming out too, like
Hmm.
you mentioned, what was the other one? Bard, is that correct?
Bard. Hmm.
Bard. Okay. So what,
That's
tell
the
me,
new
like,
game changer.
what's the difference between a Bard and a Chat GPT?
So this is such great timing for this conversation, John, because this week, so Bard is Google's version of Chat GPT. And they announced, I want to say back in January, maybe even before January, they announced Gemini, which is a new brain for Bard. So Bard has been around as long as Chat GPT, but nobody was using it. And it's been up until today or up until this week, it's been entirely free. When they launched the new brain to Gemini, and this all happened right as I was building this course with Andrew. I got on a call with him to like show him what I wanted to teach. And I literally that day was like, I'm going to try some of these prompts in Bard. And I shifted my entire course to go all through Bard instead of Chat GPT. Not because Bard is free, because it was, and there's a free version of Chat GPT, as you know, but Bard was entirely free up until this week. But the prompts were coming out a lot more thorough, in my opinion. And I was literally comparing apples to apples, putting the exact same prompt into both to see what I liked better. It was coming out more detailed and sounding more human, which is, I know, a really big thing for people. ChatGPT has a lot of like phrases and words, especially in the photography world. Like, I could just, you'll laugh at this, I'm sure you've heard it. Talking about turning moments into pixels and like just the corniest of phrases that you just want to start to want to puke every time you hear them. Um, and Bard does that too. I should call it Gemini now because they're not even calling it Bard anymore. For a while, it was like Bard with the Gemini brain. Today, if you go to bard.google.com, it'll immediately come up and say, welcome to Gemini. So Gemini now, they just launched another update to Gemini, and it's going to do a couple things that ChatGPT does not do well. One, it's faster, but I don't know. I think ChatGPT is
I don't know how
fast enough.
much faster I mean, it's like it
Yeah,
goes
it's
really
pretty
fast.
quick.
I don't like
Right, right.
what do you what do you need it that quickly? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you
maybe
need it
if
to
you're
be
doing like
instantaneous.
crazy equations or something, you need it to be
Right.
faster or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like when I put in my information, it's like I can't keep up.
Right, right? It's like, hold on a second.
I'm not able to
So
read
to
as fast
me,
as you're spitting it out there,
I
ChatGPT.
guess. So for me, the speed thing is a non-issue, but the two big things are fact checking. It's
Mm.
going to fact check. And Bar or ChatGPT can't do that. So because Gemini is Google based, it fact checks automatically before it spits out information. And so that's going to be a big game changer between the two platforms. And the other one is it has drafts. So you can put the same prompt into ChatGPT or Bard 100 different times and get 100 different variations of the same, roughly the same answer with some crossover. Bard is now going to be able, you're going to be able to see those drafts rather than have to keep putting it back in. It's going to show you different levels of what it comes up with. So those were the two like biggest things that I was reading about that are going to be different. And now Gemini, again, there's going to be two different levels. There's a free level that's your basic stuff, and then if you want all the bells and whistles, you have to pay 20. It's also $20 a month. So the pricing is exactly the same, $19.95 a month or whatever. With Bard though, they're doing two full months for free, which is pretty cool. Most places are, as I'm sure you've seen, it's like you get a week for free or 10 days for
Yeah,
free or
yeah.
whatever, 2 whole months before they charge you. So that's kind of neat. I immediately signed up, of course, because I was like, I got to see what this does. It also is going to integrate with, or not going to, it integrates with Google Sheets, Google Docs, all of the Google platforms. So that is another big difference. So I guess there's three key differences: the integration with the other Google tools, the drafts that you can see, and then the fact checking, which is a pretty big deal. So, and again, I still at this point use both for different reasons. Because one thing that Bard doesn't have that currently that ChatGPT does have is that you can build your own GPT. So I don't know if you've played with that at all, but you can make your own. One of the biggest issues, let me back up a little bit. One of the biggest issues is getting into these conversations that within Bard or ChatGPT that get so lengthy that it might forget who you're talking to. It might forget your ideal client avatar. So you have to remind it of who you're talking to. In ChatGPT, you can build your own GPT where you're an expert marketer and you focus on wedding photography and on social media or whatever. You can refine it and refine it and refine it so that every time you click on that little icon within your GPT, it knows that it is supposed to create marketing material for you, designed for your ideal client avatar. You put it all in there and it's always going to remember that
So
avatar.
you can, but can you have those different things? Like, so if I'm a dog photographer,
Uh-huh.
but I also do family photography and I also do branding photography, can
Yep.
I have different icons, so to speak, for each one
Yep.
of those? So that's
You
like,
can
hey,
have
right now I need to make some
unlimited.
posts about my branding stuff, but it's not going to be like, bring your dog in for some branding. No,
Exactly.
no. We're not, but like, I mean, yes, you can bring your dog in for branding if that fits your brand, but I mean, that's
Right.
we're not like cross pollinating things here, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah,
It's
you
just
can have unlimited GPTs. There's a store too now. You can buy other people's GPTs that they have created. So that's something that Chat has that Gemini does not yet have, but I can almost guarantee they're going to spit that out in the next 30 days
well,
just
you know
because
they're
they're neck
watching
and
their
neck.
competitor. I mean,
Oh
shoot,
yeah.
like during the Super Bowl, Microsoft put out a big ad for their Copilot,
Yep.
which is their version of, the Chat GPT and the AI stuff. And just some of the
Yep.
things they were showing on the screen, I'm like, dude, does anybody even need to go to school anymore? I mean, I
I
just,
know, it's
it's like
insane.
put
So I
in
was
put in
reading
some
about that one today because that is a direct competitor too with ChatGPT and Bard. So now there's those three that are in there, and historically, Microsoft has been not, I don't want to say in partnership because that's the wrong word, but I know that they've been working with OpenAI. So I was surprised that they came out with their own. Um,
Yeah, I don't know the backgrounds and the histories of
yeah.
things, but I just saw a friend of mine that I follow on Facebook. He works for Microsoft, and he posted that commercial before the Super Bowl,
Yep.
so I had seen it, and I was like, "Man, this is just getting ridiculous." It's like, create me a logo, and it created a logo. It's just like, oh
Yep.
my God, like
It can
it's
also do PowerPoint text to slide
wow, that's
on
crazy.
Copilot. So that's pretty interesting. For me,
Yeah.
that was the one kicker because I'm not going to get on three platforms. I'm sticking with Gemini because Google's never let me down. I'm sticking with Gemini for now. And Bard. I have both,
Well,
but
and it's interesting you
Copilot
say
seems
with like
cool.
the Gemini and the Bard stuff because it's connected to Google. And I mean, I
Yep.
don't know how many people are like this, but I'm like this. I use like my emails through Google, my
Yep.
like I use Google Drive like crazy. I have
Same.
4,000 spreadsheets and documents and everything and folders beyond folders beyond folders.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's integrating within those kind of things, it's going to be interesting to see how the possibilities will be endless. Because like one of the thoughts that I've had is we do 3, 4, 500 sessions a year or something. It's ridiculous how many we do. And one of the things that I failed to do like early on, and we still aren't doing it well, is categorizing different things based on what we're doing when it's in the final edit. We call it the final edit folder,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can imagine someday that like the AI is going to go, "Hey, categorize all my finished files into these 5, different things,"
Oh
and it
yeah.
moves it into those things based on what photos are inside of. It's just crazy to think that we can do that, right?
Right.
And crazy in an awesome way. So, yeah, the possibilities are endless, and it's
They
just gonna,
really
like you
are.
said, it's just gonna, you're gonna, if you're not on board now, you're just gonna get further and further behind,
Right.
and that's the sad thing about it. That people that are like, well, I'm not gonna do it, and you're standoffish about it, it's just like you're going to fall off a cliff,
You
because
are.
it's not going away,
It's not a fad.
and the people, yeah, and the people that are doing it are just getting that much further ahead of you,
Right.
and one, it's like anything, until once you start, that's day one of you actually improving, but if
Exactly.
somebody's 100 days ahead of you, they're 100 days ahead of you, and it's going to be hard to catch up. I mean, chat GPT or AI might help you with that, but just kidding.
Right.
I think of the Terminator movies or whatever, and this is like, when is AI going to come self-aware, and you
Right.
know,
Right.
because how crazy it's got, like, Max Headroom back in the day, the talking, the Coca-Cola guy, whatever. It's just like all that stuff when it was in the 90s or whatever, it was like theoretical stuff is now coming to
Right.
pass to be real.
I know. Here we are. Here we
It's
are.
so
It's
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 so incredibly
wild.
crazy where we're going with all that stuff.
And it's
So
moving so quickly.
yeah, it is. I mean, just like, you did your course with Andrew, what, a month or two ago?
In January, yeah.
Yeah, so it
Almost 2
wasn't
months.
that long ago, and even in the course, like at the beginning of the course, you were saying like you can't use a business email, and
Right.
just that day they announced that they were going
Yep.
to do you can use business. I mean, it was just that day you were in the middle of the
Uh-huh.
course talking about this. So it just changes all the time, but it's great. So I got a funny question because most people probably don't know this, but what does GPT mean?
I don't know. I also don't know.
I'm gonna Google because I don't even know, because you
Yeah.
kept
That
using
now
it,
I
and I
wanna
was just like,
know.
I've always just said Chat GPT. What does GPT mean? GP?
Let's find out together.
Yeah, it mean. Okay, it is. It is. It just says, what does GPT stand for? Generative pre-trained transformer.
Huh.
Huh,
We're using a transformer.
there you go. Gonna become self-aware.
Right?
No, there we go. We learned something together with our audience. Okay.
Yeah.
I've always just taken it for granted. You just used that term so many. GPT. It can do a bunch of different GPTs. I was like, she's got to know what GPT stands for. I've never asked that
Nope,
question to
didn't
myself.
didn't.
All right. So how has AI changed your business, like getting clients and connecting with them? Like, how has that changed for you? Because I know pre chat GPT or any kind of AI stuff, what a lot of photographers, me included, is you would go to other photographers' places and look at what they're doing and go, oh, that's a cool idea. I'm going to do my own version of that, but you're not very good at the wording of it. So you're going to copy a lot of the wording that they're using. And it's really their client that you're talking to and not your client. So
Right.
like when one of the things that resonated with me is just like, I could say, "Hey, go check out Brianna's uh, Instagram and see the kind of things that she's doing to connect with her client." But then a lot of people would go and look at that stuff and go, "Oh, I like what she did here. I'm going to copy this idea and use it for me." But that's not fitting what you're doing. So, how has your business and how are those avatars? How has that changed how you are connecting with your client from before you
So
used this to now?
before I used it, I think I was missing the mark for a really long time, and I was getting lucky with certain ads that performed well. I'm super fortunate that in our wedding business we get a lot of referrals from venues. So we were we were getting by and doing well enough that I had a team, but we weren't generating leads on Instagram, and um, we weren't showing up on our website, on Instagram, I wasn't even on TikTok. I'm barely on TikTok now. I am because my social media girl put me on there. But so we're now on there. But I wasn't showing up by any means the way that I am now. I wasn't using lead magnets. I wasn't doing newsletters. I wasn't blogging regularly because all of that stuff was so overwhelming. I'm the opposite of you. I'm a pretty good writer, and if I didn't major in photography, I would have majored in creative writing.
Right, right.
So I don't have a problem sitting down and writing a blog post, but I have a problem coming up with the ideas. I will sit there and stare at the screen and not know what to talk about and not know what to say or what
Yeah, once you
I can
have an
have the
idea,
wedding all
you can
day.
spit it all out. It's just getting the
Exactly.
idea,
It's
right?
generating the ideas. And so, and sometimes it's a little bit of both just because of the tools that I have, within ChatGPT or Bard. So few key things that have shifted. One, we're getting a ton of leads on Instagram. Pretty much every week we're getting multiple
So I
messages.
want to pause you there for a second. Are these organic leads or are they paid leads?
Organic. Organic. I am not doing
Game
any
changer,
paid
people.
leads.
Game changer.
Yep. I'm not doing any paid leads currently on my photography account. I am doing paid leads on, or not paid leads, but paid posts on and boosting posts on the business account because I'm trying to grow that and grow the audience for it. Not the business, the education account. But on my photography business account, I've done a few things. I've completely revamped my bio. We have 3 pinned posts to the top that have video showing what we do, how we do it, and with a script. And those scripts were all written with the help of ChatGPT. We use those in other marketing materials as well because I am doing some Google ads this year. But direct Instagram messaging, we are regularly getting leads. And again, I think part of that is I revamped the Instagram, but I revamped it with the help of ChatGPT. But also our posts are so much more valuable than they used to be. Our posts are we're talking to the client, we're talking about wedding trends. We're giving tips on how to work with kids at the beach for a photo session. We're providing so much more value than we ever did before because I would stare at the screen just like when I was going to write a blog and I'd be like, "All right, this is a really cute picture of some kids. I guess I can tell a story about working with them."
Right.
And I would be dead in the water. Now I can go into ChatGPT and be like, "All right, help me draft a caption for XYZ. Here's for Instagram. Here's the topic. This is what I want it to be about." And it'll give me one idea. If I don't love it, I can transform it a little bit. I can rework the wording. I can say, give me 3 more ideas. Give me a compelling headline. Give me something that, but I also do that all based on my ideal client avatar, who I'm talking to, right? So if I'm talking to my ideal family client avatar, then they're really going to want tips on beach sessions, right? So I'm making my content more savable, more shareable, and it's resonating a lot more with my clients. Where again, like before, I was like, "Here's a cute picture of some kids. We had a great day."
So funny question with all this. I'm like, as you're sitting here talking, I'm going on and looking a little bit at you. I'm peeping at your your
My
Instagram and all that
Insta.
stuff. Cause I mean, I'm a marketing guy. I like marketing and all that stuff, but most of my stuff is all paid. And I'm assuming because you say you're not using any kind of paid things, you have 3,000 followers,
Mhm.
3,100 followers, which isn't terrible or anything, but it's not like huge, right? And
Right.
so when you're posting on Instagram, you're posting the same 3,000 people. I'm
Yes.
assuming you're getting those new leads and stuff like that because you're using a lot of hashtags. Is that correct? Is that
Hashtags
probably
and reels.
reels? Okay, because the reels come across and posts. So Because I mean, a lot of your stuff here is just pictures, but you're not,
Right.
and then the pictures aren't reels. So, like, what are
Correct.
you like? How are you varying it up between just picture content versus real content, where you're like
We
not
try to do at
overwhelming?
least we try to do at least 2 reels a week.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes we do more if we're inspired by something, but reels get the most reach, organic reach outside of your audience.
Are you using AI to help generate what that reel should be, or has is it have any kind of context to what that reel should be?
For the captions, yes, and the ideas behind it, yes, but for actually creating the reels, we're using, like, CapCut, which is a,
Yeah, no, I get the cap cut, like, that's the editing part of it and
yeah.
everything, but are you getting the ideas of what should I create for like, that's where I'm going with
Oh,
that, is
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
what should I
So
create for what should I do for a reel this week? Because like, that's
yes,
kinda like what you're saying with the blogs, it's like, I could write the blog, I could
right.
make the reel, I just don't know what I should put as a reel. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
So one of my prompts in the course that I did with Andrew talks a lot about this, and I create a table of content ideas. And I tell it what I do a lot of, which are reels and carousels are they perform the best. So we try to do mostly reels and carousels. But we also throw out a few static posts because sometimes it's exhausting. You can't really schedule a reel. That's the hardest part with reels. They perform
Yes,
really well.
reels get like so we use Loomly for posting our stuff because we post it across channels and everything, and it works great.
Okay.
But when it comes to doing reels, you have to get on your phone and do the reel, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
even
You
if you
have
use
to manually make
CapCut,
them.
the audio that CapCut has is garbage. So if you're using CapCut, don't use their audio. Just
Right.
make the reel in CapCut, then go post it on Instagram and use
And
some
use
kind of
their audio.
music and hope that like
Yeah.
Paramount or whoever it is, Warner Brothers, whoever it is, doesn't take all their content and their music off.
Right, I know. I know. And but then also if you ever wanna boost it, you can't use that audio. You have to use either something from CapCut or something that's royalty free. So you still can't use good music if you wanna boost something,
Yeah, yeah, if
by
you
the way.
wanna boost it, but, like, so how are you, um, sifting in those reels that you're boosting versus you're just doing authentic stuff?
So same thing with the other stuff is we create a content calendar based on our ideal client avatar. So we have our avatar, then we do a content table. Sometimes I do it usually by the week, and then I'll do a couple weeks at a time so that I have enough content for a month. But I ask it to give me content ideas and I tell it what type of content. So reels, um, carousels and static posts are what I usually talk about. It will also just randomly throw in, like, ideas for polls and things like that, which is kind of cool to mix it up a little bit, but I do generate all those ideas through Gemini through Gemini. And but I make it I still make it my own, right? We all
Right,
do. So
right.
I'll see a real idea. It'll tell me what the video should be. And I'm like, I don't need that video, but I love the caption. I love the idea. So I'll take the caption and the idea. And we have a ton of behind the scenes footage from our shoots because we have a content creator that comes with us on our shoots. So we have a full library of stuff that we can pull from, or we use images to make, images from a shoot to make a reel, things like that. But yeah, it's the ideas for the reels and the inspiration for the reels comes from AI.
So, are you doing like, what's the like, this is a little off topic, but it's kind of on topic. What is your breakdown between, like, doing weddings versus doing photography like, studio do you have a studio or do you on location with, like, families and branding and all that kinda stuff?
Both. So I have a studio and I do mostly on location, but we do offer some studio work. But it's mostly natural light on location. Weddings make up probably about 60% of the business.
Okay.
And the rest is kind of a balance between family and branding, but we did just launch branding last year in
So are you
23. So
having Gemini kinda help with that messaging of like if you're 60%, in my mind, if you're 60% weddings, you're gonna do 60% content creation through weddings and 40% or 20% in portraits and then 20% in branding or whatever.
depends on if
Is
you
it
want to
helping you with that?
yes, but it depends on if you wanna shift that ratio.
Right, right, right.
So, which I do. I would really like families and branding to take over at least 50%, if not more, of the business because that's where I'm putting a lot of my focus and energy. Um, so I have not gone to Gemini to ask what that ratio should be. I just have come up with my own formula that, Mondays is a wedding post or whatever. I don't know what it is off the top of my head right now because I have somebody else scheduling for me, but um we try to break it up evenly between an engagement post, a wedding post, a family post, and a brand post so that we're showing as much of everything as we can. And of course we try to throw in as much as we can personal stuff too, because people want to know who you are. So we
Yeah.
try to throw in something about a member of the team or about myself in the mix as well. So we have something for every day of the week. And then the weekends are kind of a free for all. If we're out shooting, we do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, we try to make the posts pretty even across the board, but a little bit more heavy on the wedding side for sure.
So I know this is a question I'm sure a lot of people are asking because if you're getting organic leads through your organic posts, you're not paying for that and everything. What is the typical quality of that lead or the quality of that? And then what is your average booking rate for those leads that are coming in through those different kinds of things? Because I mean, I've had a lot of people inquire and then you tell them your price and they're like, oh, you
Right,
know,
right.
it's like
Yeah,
forget you. I'm looking for a $300 photographer that's going to give me all the
totally.
digitals, shoot and burn person.
Exactly. Exactly. And we do get a lot of those. So a percentage I don't have right off the top of my head, only because we have just started seeing this shift over the last probably 4 months. And so we're tracking it now because at first we were like, "Is this real?"
Wait, what's going on
So
here? Well,
yeah,
this
yeah.
hasn't
Are
happened
these okay?
before.
We're actually starting to steadily get these inquiries. So I would say that my family leads for sure are far less likely to book from Instagram because we are not cheap. We're
It's
not cheap with
more it's
weddings
so it's
either.
more the wedding side of things is where you're
The
getting the
wedding
success there.
leads and the branding leads are more consistent on Instagram, and those are more likely to convert than the family right now.
Okay, so branding and wedding. That's good to know
Mhm.
because, like, it's really interesting because it's the same thing for me in the sense of like how I market for families and pets is way
Mhm.
different than how I can market to headshots and branding and all that stuff.
Yes.
If I try to do the same kind of thing for headshots and branding, it does not go well and it never has
Right.
translated the exact same way. Um, and so that's to be said out there, like a little aside, if you're in business and you're trying to do multiple things, understand that because it's working for one thing that you do doesn't mean it's going to work for something else. And
Absolutely.
I had, I've had two studio locations. I mean, long story short, like we haven't announced this to the public yet, but we've shut down our New York studio because
Mm,
it was just, long story short, it was just not making us as much money as it was worth the time having.
sure.
It was doing well for a while and then it just kind of fell off a cliff. And then I was like, this isn't worth my time and effort to keep this. And I'm going to concentrate on one place. But being said, is even stuff that we did in Houston didn't translate into New York for the exact same type of genre or whatever that we were trying to promote.
Mhm.
So you have to know how to market and use those tools. And I know if you have the right, like you're talking about, like the prompts and stuff like that, that can help generate whatever that is for whatever you're trying to do. It's not a magic bullet, people. Like, I'm
Right.
sure you can say this, Brianna. Like, it's not
100%.
like, hey, if I do this, they will come.
Right.
There's so
And I'm
many
gonna
other
make
things.
thousands.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many other things that go with that,
There are.
that come with those kind of things. It's just like I can't tell you how many people I talk to. It's like, oh, I get leads. Okay, what did you do with them? I never called them. Okay, well, you're never going to get
Yeah.
any clients. It's just like, well, when
Absolutely.
I
You can lead
call
a
them, I
horse to
don't know what
water
to
is the
say on the
phrase.
phone. Okay, so
Right.
there's so many other things that go into that. This is just a tool to help you get to these different places that you need to get
Right.
to, right?
And this tool can help you determine where you need to be too. So, for example, I have discovered not because of ChatGPT or Bard, but just my own experience that, as we just said, my our current ideal wedding client and our current ideal brand client are probably looking for me on Instagram. Our ideal wedding or family client is not looking for me on Instagram. They're looking for me on Google. However, they are it all still goes hand in hand, right? Because even if they find me through Google and they love my Google ad, and they come in and they spend a bunch of money, they are still going to land on my Instagram account and my Instagram and my newsletter and my follow up. Those are the things that are going to make them a returning client. So it's and then it's also testing, right? You have to
Right.
test these things too. So AI is not going to be like, here's the most perfect ad that's going to get you all of the business. It's going to say, here's
If like my buddy and I, Hark, he's been on the podcast before. We always talk about this. If business was easy, we would all be doing it. It's
100%.
not. It's not
Yes,
easy,
it's not easy. It's
and
not easy. And I get
if we could
so
all just put into
frustrated.
ChatGPT, this is my ideal client. What do I say? And then it says
Yes.
that, and then all of a sudden they come, then it's kind of like if everybody had $1 million, we would all be rich. It just doesn't
Right.
work.
Right. And or we would all be poor because all the prices would
Exactly.
skyrocket.
Everything would cost a lot of money because everybody is a millionaire.
Yeah,
Um,
it's there's still that intuition that's really important when it comes to running your business and knowing what to use. So, perfect example, you ask it to give you 10 ideas for a lead magnet. Well, which one resonates with you? You don't need to do all 10 of them. Which
right.
one speaks to you? Which one do you think you would, if you put your ideal client avatar hat on your own head, which one do you think is going to resonate or as the photographer, as the artist, which one do you feel the most passionate about talking about? Then you take that and you make it your own. Or you take 3 of them and you test them. Testing is
Yeah.
so important when it comes to ads, as you know.
Right. Right.
So you're 100% right. It's not a magical tool, and I
Well,
get so tired of those
yeah.
photographers out there that try to teach it like it's easy, right? Teach any kind of
Right.
level of
No,
business like, "Oh,
it's,
here's how
yeah.
you become booked in 30 days." And none of my teaching stuff that you will ever see come out will tell people that they're guaranteed to be booked solid in 30
Right.
days
Right.
because
Right. Yeah.
it's
Well,
not
yeah, and it's interesting too because like, I see this a lot with photographers. I see people that are in the same similar kind of world of what I do, and I rely a lot on paid ads for
yes,
getting clients, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then I
not
see
at all.
people that don't pay anything and get clients, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes there's a fight between the two. It's just like that. It's like why like your business works fine for you, my business works fine for me. Why do we got to
Right.
argue about it? But one of the things I see a lot, I feel like I see a lot, especially with people that do the paid advertisement. I feel like I see it more there, but I think maybe I know more people that do the paid advertising, is they neglect their social media. Like the last time you saw them post was in 2022, or like one day they'll wake up and somebody tells them, hey, you need to start posting more. And they'll post like 10 posts in a day. And it's just like, no, spread those 10 posts out over 10
Yeah.
days. I mean, like, what are you doing? Like, it does not help you to post 10 times in a day.
Right.
And then they do it for 10 days. They go, oh, well, it didn't bring me any clients. I'm not going to post again. You don't post again. You have to be consistent. You have to stay with it. You have to test, like you're saying, things that work and don't work and find out what works and keep doing that. And even after a while, what worked will stop working. And you need
It'll
to find
shift.
a new way to resonate with your client or whatever. But like you saying, these like, and I think that's the biggest thing that you both of us are talking about here is using this as a tool makes it easier for you to create that content, but you have to do the work.
You have
You
to do the
can't
work.
just go to Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever it is that you're using and say, give me 10 social media content posts for the next 10 days. And it gives you that. And then you never post it. It's kind of
Right.
like, hey, I got 30 leads. Well, what did you do with the leads? I never called them.
Nothing.
What do you, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. So,
Right.
I think we talked about this before we started that like, I get people a lot that go, well, if I'm on your podcast and I share this information, like, it's going to affect my business or it could affect my business. Like an hour-long podcast is not going to affect your business because there's so many things that go on in
Oh,
business.
yeah.
And the people that have been successful have figured it out and done the work.
Right.
So anyway, that's my little soapbox for a second here, but
I would say I would add to that with, anybody that's on any podcast or listening to any podcast. I For myself, when listening to the PhotoBiz X podcast, I have to take breaks because it's information overload and you cannot possibly implement everything you learn from every single person. So if you hear an episode where something resonates with you and you can take one tool and implement it, you're ahead of the game.
right,
Because a lot of people will listen to episode after episode after episode and change nothing,
right.
and they've got all this knowledge, but they don't know what to do with it. So I have to walk away from podcasts and things like that and focus on my projects at hand, then go back with a fresh mind. Okay, what's the next thing I want to work on? So same thing with my masterclass that I did with them. I gave 20 prompts in that. don't use all 20 prompts. Pick the prompts that are working for you. Pick
Yeah,
1 or 2 and
right.
run with it, because you can go down a massive rabbit hole on one thing and get so much information and so many things to implement. You'll get too much to implement. So you got to pick and choose what's going to work with you and then do the work.
Well, and I would piggyback on that too, and it's like this is a thing with podcasts that I will also say is don't listen to podcasts and change what you're doing every single podcast. I did that early on. It was just like, oh, that's a great idea. I could do that. And then you start trying to do that. And then it's like you're going down that rabbit trail. And then somebody else gets on there. And so I've gotten to the point, and I've even told Andrew this. I'm like, I don't listen to all your podcasts. I only listen to the ones that I think are going to resonate with me and my
Same.
business and what I'm going to do. And I've had to it's a discipline thing that I've had to teach myself to do because it's so easy to get on there and like you said, it's information overload. But part of the problem with the information overload, it's like this week we're going to talk to wedding photographer Brianna, and then next week we're going to talk about dog photographer John, and then the following week we're going to talk about boudoir photographer whatever, and it's like now that you go, oh, I'm going to go do boudoir, and I'm going to do dog photography, and I'm going to do wedding, and it's like no, just pick something until it
Yeah.
works, and then if you
Right.
want to start branching out like you did, you started off with weddings, you had a successful wedding business, you decided, hey, I've got this down, let me start branching into some other things. It's the same thing with me, right?
Right.
So, and then you try things that work and you try things that don't. That's like, like what I was saying with New York, it was working and then it just stopped working and I just had to cut the cord, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like if dog photography stopped working for me someday, knock on wood, I hope it never does, then I would have to find a different direction to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't get into something just like you said, you can't get into the next it we talked about this briefly earlier. There's such a balance of knowing when to niche and when to not.
Right.
And if you're not wanting to niche down because you want all of the business and you're frantically looking for any avenue of money that can come in and you're saying yes to everybody, but you don't know how to do any of it well, you're gonna overwhelm yourself, you're gonna overload yourself, and you're gonna have 0 messaging because you're not gonna know who you're talking to. Like me, for example, I don't really wanna go into an office building and do corporate headshots all day. I wanna do branding photography. I wanna show the world who you are and what you do
Right.
in a totally different light. But if I do get offered to go and do a big corporate thing, I know how to do it because I've taught myself. I will not jump into another niche unless I can do it well. I don't fly by the seat of my pants in that way. I say yes because I know I've mastered one thing and now I can
Right.
work on the next
Yeah,
and
like
so on
it's
and so
like
forth.
I talked with Peter Hurley about this, who's a big time headshot photographer, and he's like an incredible human being. Like I love him to death, and I've been in his headshot crew, and I've learned headshots and portraiture stuff through the headshot crew. And he came to Houston, and he and I were sitting down having a beer, and I told him, I said, I have made the decision that I am not going to make headshots a priority for me. It's nothing against you and what you do. And I love what you're doing and I support what you're doing. And I love the headshot crew and it has taught me so much, but it's not my focus. If I get headshots, if I get branding like you, if I go to a corporate place and I get some, group work, then I'll take it. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like,
You're
it's
not gonna
not, it's
market
going to
it.
be 10% of my marketing as opposed
Right.
to, 100. And he basically said, "Well, with the money you're making doing the dog photography and the family stuff that you do, you don't need to do this anyway. So like
Right.
do what works for you and what makes sense for you."
And
And
do it well
yes.
and zero
Yeah.
in on it. Zero
Yeah.
in on
Yeah.
it and do
Yeah.
it well instead of trying to be everything to everybody, you
No,
know?
that's great. That's good stuff. No, this has been awesome. I know like you have your course with PhotoBizX. So how would somebody go and find, I will put this in the show notes so people can have a link, but like what does that course look like? I think you said you're going to come up with some other courses. Are those going to be through PhotoBizX or are they going to be through you?
A mix of both. So I have 3 more master classes scheduled with PhotoBizX that will continue the AI education that we started. And I am launching, like it's gonna be like a 3-day challenge on helping people revamp their Instagram and attract more clients on Instagram with some AI tools. So there will be a little AI touch on that, but it will be a 3-day challenge. So I'm doing all kinds of little things here and there. And then the bigger courses, the bigger master classes, I do have 3 more with PhotoBizX. So, and then I am developing as well a bigger, more in-depth 6-week course for the business of photography coupled with AI that we'll be launching in the next couple months probably.
That's
So I'm
awesome.
doing lots of stuff. And you can find me on Instagram at Shy Heart Studios is my photography Instagram, and at Brianna _Shrader is my education account.
Okay, so you're just using your personal name. Nothing's fancy. There you go.
Yeah, I decided that there's only 3 things you can pin at the top of your feed, and I can't add a 4th thing to the same account. So I
Right.
all
That's
the
awesome.
accounts.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. No, Brianna, it's been a pleasure having you on. Like you said, if you're not doing what we've talked about today, you're being left behind. And I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it as well as you are. And I need to continue to get better. And we are working to continue to get better. That's why we joined your course,
Yeah.
and everything. And Kelly, who's my studio manager and implements most of this stuff as we are
Wonderful.
going forward, she is like always sending me, hey, check out this thing that I did because of this course and all that stuff and everything. But it's like you said, we're testing and figuring out what works and what doesn't work and what we got to get better at. And one of the things that I have tried to make it a priority is we're going to try and do 1 or 2 reels a week because we know that's important and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But real quick side question though
Sure.
is, I saw you have like the 3,200 followers or whatever on Instagram. Have you seen an uptick in the last 6 months or something since you've really
Yes.
taken this on? And how big of a
Yes.
growth has that been? I see you're looking at
Let
a
me look that
spreadsheet
up
or
because I
something.
actually, before getting into
For those of you who are
that
listening,
course, I
she's like
had the
looking up
numbers.
a spreadsheet here with these numbers, I think.
Yes. I had this I had this number completely drawn out to show our growth. It's been I- I'm going to try to remember off the top of my head because I'm going to be searching my emails, but I'll send you the exact number.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I'll send you the exact number because we have seen higher than average growth over the last 6 months. I think they said the average growth for a photographer on Instagram should be around 2%. That's the
Okay.
average, and we were up, I think, upwards of 5% over the last several months. So if I remember correctly, I'm going to get those exact numbers and give
No,
them to you.
that's great. That's great.
Because it is really fascinating to see, and we've really been paying very close attention to that, and the way that we've shifted everything since I think we started really implementing this stuff in August, and it's just been, skyrocketing in a moderate way. You don't want to skyrocket too fast because you want your followers to be real, and all 3,100 of those followers are real. And yeah, so or 3,200, whatever we're
No,
at, I don't know.
that's awesome. Yeah, I like when you see the people that have 40, 50,000, you're like, how many
You're
of
like,
them are
come
like actual
on.
clients and stuff?
Well,
I mean, we've been
and
doing this for 4 years now or whatever. Yeah, 2024 will be it would be 4 years, and I think my Facebook is like 8,000. My Instagram is I don't know, I'm looking it up real quick here. We're at 5,100 and I'm happy with that. Like I don't need it to
yeah.
be at 10, 15, 20,000 because I know that's not real, I mean,
It's
so
not real, and those people aren't engaging with you. 20 engaged and active followers are far better than 10,000 that aren't paying
right.
attention to you,
Right, right,
right?
right. Yeah. So, but no, it has been awesome having you. You have shared so much information. If you haven't taken the course, I recommend it's worth every penny. And once you have it through Andrew's PhotoBizX, it's yours. You pay for it once, and then you get it all. And then you're also I believe there's a Facebook group for the people that were in
Yes.
the course, and so they can
Yep.
ask questions and pick brains and stuff like that for things. So it's definitely worth the money. If you're not doing this kind of stuff, you need to get on board or you're going to fall further behind. If you are doing it and you just want to get better at it, there's no better thing to do than just finding other people like Brianna and picking their brain and learning from them and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much. This has been so valuable. I'm sure the listeners are going to get a ton out of it. And maybe in a year or so from now, we can talk about what's new with AI and where is
Absolutely.
it
I'm sure it'll
going?
be sooner than a year because it's
Yeah,
changing so quickly.
right,
So
right.
I'll come back anytime.
There you go. All right. Well, it was great
Thank you,
having you
John.
on today. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Thank you so much.